All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to put on our detective hats and head deep into the incredible forests of Meghalaya. We're here to investigate a really critical mystery. When a forest is officially labeled protected, what does that actually mean on the ground? Let's find out.
So, this is the big question, right? It's the one we're going to try and answer. And on the surface, it seems pretty simple. But, the answer is way more complex than you think, and it has huge implications for one of India's most vital ecosystems. And the best part, we're going to show you exactly how to find that answer for yourself.
Okay, so to kick off any good investigation, you have to start with the official story. You got to know what the laws and the labels actually say. What's the promise on paper?
And on paper, Meghalaya has a pretty solid system. You've got reserved forests, where logging is supposed to be super restricted. Then there are wildlife sanctuaries, which are all about biodiversity. And you even have these culturally significant sacred or community forests. Each one has its own set of legal protections.
But here's the thing, and this is absolutely crucial. A label on a map, well, that's just a promise. It's where our investigation starts, not where it ends. The real story? You usually find that by looking much, much closer. And now for the really fun part. We're going to give you your very own Investigator's Toolkit. These are 3 powerful tools that anyone, and I mean anyone, can use to see past the official reports and figure out what's really going on.
First up, your eye in the sky, remote sensing. This is all about using satellite data to get a bird's eye view. I'm talking from hundreds of kilometers up. Satellites can spot tiny changes that will be totally invisible from the ground, like a new road suddenly cutting into a dense forest. It's amazing stuff.
And you seriously don't need to be a rocket scientist to do this. There are free tools out there like Global Forest Watch that give you access to alerts in almost real time. You can literally just scan the borders of a protected area and see if the forest canopy has been disturbed. It's an incredibly powerful first step.
All right, tool number 2 in our kit is the paper trail. This is where you put on your reading glasses and dig into the official documents, like the India State of Forest Report. These reports classify forests by their density. So this becomes a really crucial cross-check. Are the government's own numbers telling the same story as the satellites?
And finally, and this is maybe the most important tool of all, it's time to get your boots on the ground. Because nothing, and I mean nothing, beats first-hand evidence. This is where you go and verify what the satellites and the reports are telling you with what you can see, hear, and touch for yourself. This is the ground truth.
And look, this isn't just about taking a casual stroll through the woods. You're collecting data. You're looking for freshly cut stumps, tire tracks from heavy trucks, new little trails used to drag logs out, and every single photo you take and geotag becomes another solid piece of evidence. You're building a case.
So, you've got your clues from the sky, from the paper trail, and from the ground. Now this is where the real detective work begins. What happens when your evidence starts to contradict the official story? How do you make sense of it all?
This is where it gets really interesting. Because on one hand, you might read an official report that says, nope, no illegal felling here. But on the other hand, your satellite data is showing you that the forest canopy has been disappearing bit by bit, year after year. That's not a mistake. That's a massive clue.
So when you see a contradiction like that, what does it mean? It points to what's called a porous protection regime. Basically, it's like having a fence full of holes. The protection exists on paper, but in reality, things are slipping through the cracks. The rules just aren't being effectively enforced.
And what about timber seizures? You might see a news story about authorities seizing illegally cut logs and think, awesome, they're on top of it. Enforcement is working. But is it really? If those seizures keep happening in the same place over and over again with nobody actually being prosecuted, well, that's not success. That's a sign of failure. The consequences clearly aren't strong enough to stop it from happening again.
So, you've gathered your evidence, you've spotted the contradictions. Now what? You don't just sit on it. This is where an individual investigator, you, can become part of something much bigger, a powerful community movement.
This is how you take it to the next level. We're talking about organizing community patrols, creating shared open maps of all the incidents you find, partnering with local experts. You're turning all those individual data points into an undeniable public record. You're building a case that is just too strong to be ignored.
And that brings us to the most important question of all. Why does this even matter? Who cares about a small patch of forest here or a few trees there? What are the real stakes in this investigation?
Well, you see, it's rarely one big, catastrophic event that destroys a forest. It's more like death by 1,000 cuts. It's one small, seemingly insignificant loss, and then another one, and then another. And each one on its own is so easy to just dismiss, but together, they lead to total ecological collapse.
And this right here, this gets to the heart of it all. Because losing a forest isn't just about losing trees. It's about losing your clean water source. It's about losing the insects that pollinate your food. It's about losing the plants that have been used as medicine for generations. So the question we're left with isn't just whether a forest has protected on a piece of paper, but what are you willing to do to make sure that it truly is?